Gary, anything going on in high school football this week?
No, I don't know anything. I haven't seen anything. I've been a little out of the loop so far this week. I've just been watching episodes of Suits at night. Really good show about lawyers and legal stuff, and that's about it. So I don't know what you're talking about, really.
Well, we're about to break some news to Gary because there have been plenty of things going on in high school football. This is the Under the Lights podcast. I'm Kyle Parmley. Gary Lloyd, who's been watching old TV. Gary, on Monday morning, word gets out that four-star Spain Park defensive end Jared Smith is transferring to Thompson, and with the way the AHSAA rulebook reads, he has made a bona fide move. He will be eligible very soon. It depends on who you ask, whether he'll be ready to play this Friday for Thompson or what have you. But this is a big story in a lot of different ways. I want to get your thoughts on this, but I want to start this conversation by saying I've seen Jared Smith play football. He's an incredible football player. I have no reason to believe he's not an extremely hard worker. He's a great athlete. This will all be prefaced by saying none of this is against Jared. He's done everything the right way from what it looks like. He's followed the rules. His family's decided they need to move to Thompson, and that's where he's at. However, I feel like you probably have some thoughts on how you can play for Spain Park for 8 games and then play for Thompson the rest of the season. Like that seems a little wild to me.
Yeah, like wild is the word that I've probably used the most over the last 48 hours while I've been watching those old episodes of Suits and doing nothing else. Yeah, like I mean, I was there Friday at Hewitt-Trussville, where Spain Park beat them 50-29, and obviously he played in the game, and I don't pretend to be an AHSAA handbook, you know, constant reader. I'm not an expert on it. I'm looking at parts of it right now, but how do you get this scuttlebutt starts, over the weekend, Sunday, and then Monday there's an announcement. I don't know when he's in Dragonfly, if he's in it yet, if he's in it Monday. I don't know. I'm not looking. I don't know. But it's wild that he plays in the game Friday night for Spain Park, and then just like that, we're moving. But the thing is like, people move all the time. I've moved a lot. So it's obviously nothing against the kid, nothing against the family. If they want to move, they can move. That's perfectly fine. That's going to continue to happen. I might move again here in the next few years. I think my issue is more centered on the ambiguity a little bit of this bona fide move rule. Again, I watch Suits. I am not a suit, as you can clearly tell, but something just doesn't sit right with the way it's written to me. Like, Cal, you remember high school English class, right?
Yep.
You remember a certain adverb that your English teacher would slap your knuckles if you used? It's the word very.
Don't use the word very, especially consecutively.
Bingo. Well, sometimes it is very difficult to determine what constitutes a bona fide move. That's the first sentence under determining a bona fide move from the AHSAA handbook.
Okay.
So sometimes we're vague. It is very difficult. We're vague and ambiguous again. And I'm like, I'm no lawyer. And to be fair, they go into family and home conditions differ. I get that. I mean, I think we saw that with Pell City earlier this year and what happened with them. But something about it just stinks. Like, if Jared Smith suits up this week, and that's an if. I don't think he needs to. I don't think he has to. Thompson has wrapped up the region. Save him for the playoffs now that you've got him. But if he plays this Friday night, and this is kind of what's stuck in me, like in terms of on-field play aspect of this, is he would play Hoover twice in the same regular season for two different teams in the same region. And I don't know what the answer is, but that stinks. Like, you don't want to. I get it. It's supposed to be. The HSAA is supposed to be for the kids, support the kids, prop up the kids. We've seen in the past where that hasn't exactly been the case, but I don't know if you transfer mid-year or 2 weeks before the playoffs. If you have to sit, is it, hey, you've transferred, you met all the requirements, but you got to sit till next year? Or, hey, you can't play consecutive weeks for different schools, you have to sit 1 week. Do you have to sit 4 games out of the year, 30% of the season? Something like that would make this, this ambiguity of this rule is it just doesn't sit right. And excuse me. And it just, I don't know. What do you kind of think while I gather some other thoughts?
Well, for starters, I think it's wild that you can play for 2 teams in the same season. That seems crazy to me because, like you said, the HSA, the rules are supposed to benefit the kids, and a lot of them do not, as we've seen over the years. Now this one does, but like where's the consistency? Like you move from one area to the other, you're immediately eligible. But heaven forbid you try to move from a private school to a public school. If you did that mid-season, you basically are sitting out for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that blows my mind. It makes me so mad to hear about stories where, for example, we had a private school kid moved to a public school. She had to play the whole year on JV, even though she would have helped the varsity team tremendously. That doesn't make any sense because that's where they're zoned to go to school. Right. This is the same type of thing. But so you can be immediately eligible in one situation, and in another one, you're basically sitting out 18 months, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's so many things that are just backwards. Gary, you tweeted out a list of major news items about the Alabama High School Athletic Association in recent years. And it just seems like, the AHSA draws a hard line in the sand on so many things with no nuance, no ability to see nuance, with nothing. However, we all remember the story last spring where, look, I'll just give you some examples based on some facts that I know and will probably be disputed if you ever asked anybody in Montgomery. But we remember the stuff with Hoover baseball coach Adam Mosley, one of his players, RJ Hamilton. Both of them received this incredible honor to compete for Team USA. Knowing that it is a violation to coach your own player outside of the school season, even on a Team USA, the Hoover High School administration goes to the Athletic Association with this information ahead of time, says, look, we know this is a violation, but look at these circumstances. These are crazy circumstances that aren't common. That look, is this going to be okay? We're wanting to seek your help on this. And they were given every indication that there would be some sort of help or understanding involved. And then when the rubber met the road, HSAA said, nope, you're suspended because you broke a rule, and rules can't change that fast. Catch my last sentence. Rules can't change that fast.
Fast forward
to this fall when Tuscaloosa County gets popped for a restaurant giving gift cards to players for athletic performance, which is clearly stated in the rule book that you cannot do. Now, nothing against T County, because if we're being honest, and I'm whispering this, they're not the only team that's ever done that. It's just never kind of been noticed. Now, nothing against T County, because I think that what they were doing, the Player of the Week program, that was a great idea. Very cool thing to do. However, clearly stated in the rule book, that's not okay. So the HSA comes down and is like, hey, you're right. This is not okay. You have to forfeit this game that these guys played in. Fast forward a literal week, Gary, and we have a central board clarification of a rule where I don't think you don't clarify a rule by changing the rule. they changed the rule to state that restaurant gift cards are okay, which, is kind of opening the door for some very sketchy things in the near future, but
Yeah, yeah.
we'll cross
Well,
that
and
bridge at some point.
well, and let's not miss that. Okay, this is a football podcast. Football is the bread and butter. This is Alabama. That's fine. I love high school football, obviously, but the rule that gets that quick central board meeting has to do with football. Did Maori, how do you say her name again? Maori Davenport.
Mayor
I wasn't
Davenport from Charles Henderson High School.
from Charles Henderson. Basketball. Did that get a clarification meeting immediately or a week later? No.
No.
Did Adam Mosley get a clarification or a rule change a week later? Baseball. No. Did Oakwood Adventist Academy? No. None of those are football. Just saying.
Yeah.
So
I'm baffled, man.
I just and let me be clear about something else too. All across this state, especially across this central region, Birmingham region, there are going to be people that watch this. There are going to be people that saw the tweets while I was just, calmly watching my TV show, that say, well, you're just mad because Thompson got another player. Everybody has an opinion about Thompson. That's fine. Thompson is a part of this story. Obviously, it's the destination of this player, Jared Smith. But that's not really my issue. It's a part of the story, of course, because that's where he's going. And this has happened in the past. And it's a bigger thing right now because it is a 4-star recruit going there. But to me, it's more about what this, I don't want to call it a loophole. It is what the rule says, but what it paves for the future is open season. Let's say I'll just go with my most recent game that I was at. Okay, Hewitt-Trussville is getting ready for the playoffs as well. They struggled mightily in the secondary against Spain Park. Well, what if they just were like scouring the area and at whatever school found some, a safety, a corner, and we're like, man, sure would be cool if they moved over here. I'm not saying Thompson contacted him. I'm not saying Hewitt would contact whoever this made up kid is I'm talking about. But it seems to be that it could open the door for this kind of thing where you can plug and play mid-year, in time for the playoffs, that kind of thing. And that's just gross. And you don't want to punish these kids. If they move, they move. That's why this is nuanced. It's nuanced. It begs discussion. It needs review in Montgomery. It needs opinions of coaches, athletic directors, all the member schools. They need to come together, take a look at this whenever the central board has a scheduled meeting, I'm assuming, because we're probably not going to have a quickly called one here. But and see at least, hey, what can be done? Can anything be done? Is there something we can clarify? Is there something we can add? Because what this is going to do is going to open some floodgates. And that's what more of where my concern would go, and where I know a lot of the concerns of coaches around the state are going right now is, wait, we can do that? Like, that's what we can do with this rule. They can just move in and we can just play them. And, you to speak out of the other side of my mouth a little bit, you don't want to hurt the kids, but let's talk about this too. Let's say he plays Friday against Hoover. I don't know if he will or not. I think it might be smart to not play him, not necessarily because of paperwork and transfer stuff and stuff like that, but you've locked up the region and you're probably going to win anyway. Just wait. But what about the kid who's been at that school, went through summer workouts, played all year, and now his playing time is drastically cut? What about that kid? that sucks.
It does. I would like to wrap up this conversation with a couple of things. Number one, Jared Smith is going to be in a great situation at Thompson. If he is able to get on the field, that will mean that he's elevated to their standard, and they're gonna push him to be the best he can be, and he's gonna do great things there. I have no doubt, especially with another year there. I also firmly believe that based on everything, and we're not there on the day-to-day, I will say that, but everything that me and you have both heard and seen out of the Spain Park program, while this really sucks, I mean, to lose one of your most talented players, I firmly believe in what Tim Vakakis is doing over there. And nothing that he said ahead of this, during this, and probably will say in the immediate aftermath of this is going to sway my opinion, because he's the type of guy that is going to say, look, we believe in what we're doing. The people that are in this building, let's keep going after it.
Yeah. And he's been very consistent in everything he said and done since he got that job.
Yeah, and his quotes yesterday were, one of my other points here. This is not a situation where a rule was broken and something needs to be done to rectify it immediately. This is a situation where this rule just doesn't sit well with a lot of people. Like the people move, like you said, that's fine. It just seemed like, just my personal opinion, and doesn't matter to anybody. It's just wild to me that you can play for two teams in the same season in the same sport. That doesn't work to me. This is not pro sports. You don't get traded at the deadline. You don't get this. You just shouldn't be able to do that outside of extenuating circumstances. So, but like I said, that no rule was broken here. There's none of that. There's nothing against the kid, nothing against either program. Thompson's done nothing wrong here, as far as we know. So this is just a weird circumstance for me. But the last thing I'll say, with how this kind of player movement is glorified, like we say, you want the best for people. Like, you don't want anybody to feel like they're being hamstrung in any way. And the fact that he feels like this is a better opportunity for him, fantastic. I just feel like we've professionalized everything so much that none of it is about the experience anymore. Like, you talk to so many people that once you get older is when you realize the perspective that you just don't have when you're younger. But how many times do you get to be a high school student athlete?
Exactly.
One. How many times do you get to be a college student athlete? One. So the garbage that, like, for example, why in the world is Caleb Williams at USC being encouraged to quit playing college football because he might not win the Heisman or the national championship? Like, that is not the only thing sports are about. There's so much more to it than stuff like that. There's so much more to the experiences of life in high school, in college, that, yes, I understand when you're talking about generational money, there are things that have to be weighed. But I mean, come on, guys. Like, this is not like it bugs me that we've acted like over the last couple of years, like in the summer, it's like transfer portal season in high school, where people will be on social media saying, this player's going here, let's celebrate it and make a big deal of it. And it just shouldn't be that, man. And I hate to see that.
And I saw some tweet last night, not that I was on there much or anything, but, where somebody said something to the effect of, this is why it's nuanced. Something to the effect of, basically, high school sports for these kids, it's not about high school. It's about getting them where they need to go. And that just didn't sit well with me as someone who's played a little bit of high school sports. It's like, I remember, trips with my teammates and, my buddies, and, tournaments we won, and, stuff like that. Like, I get it. It is about wanting to put your kid in the best situation possible. So there is that aspect. And if that's your MO, is to bolt, that's fine. But at the same time, if you've been in a certain program or in a certain school system or whatever for however long, and again, I'm not speaking, I'm generalizing here. I'm not talking specifically about Jared Smith. I don't know his situation. I, I don't really care. That's not my issue. It's, it's now you're leaving some of your guys behind, for greener pastures, with whatever the situation is. I'm not saying that aspect is right or wrong. It sucks. And the fact that you can potentially immediately play, that's wild, and I don't think should happen. I mean, I think there shouldn't be I don't think you should even get a grace period. I think if you transfer the middle of the year, you're sitting until next year. I think if you transfer and you're a senior, eligibility's done. You can be on the sideline and you can cheer. But if but there's always got to be compromises and things, how you're not going to get something 100% of the way you want. I'm not going to get something 100% of the way I want. If it means, hey, if you transfer, mid-season by week 6, you have to sit out 3 games. If you transfer by week 9, you got to miss the first 2 playoff games, or whatever these proposals potentially end up, if there are any, that might be coming down the pike. Something like that curbs this a little bit or makes it just a little less icky, because this is icky. And I want these student athletes to be successful and play with their buds. And when I was growing up, most all of my buds were at Hewitt-Trussville. But these days, in a social media world, where everybody's got a huddle tape and everybody wants to get recruited and all of that, it's not like Jared Smith wasn't already getting recruited, but they want to play with who they want to play with. And my fear is that this thing ends up the foundation for trying to form high school super teams in a way, because if you can just leave and you can find an apartment in Alabaster or Anniston or Saks or wherever you want to go, that you can do that. And a top flight quarterback might leave week 4, and that might mean week 7 a receiver from a different school is like, I want to go play with that guy. And before you know it, that team is completely different than it was earlier in the season. And that's the wild, wild west, man. And I can't believe that this is where we're at again, talking about these kinds of things in high school football in Alabama.
Yep. So we'll see where this goes from here. But like we said, we want what's best for the guys. Hopefully the move to Thompson for Jared Smith is a great one that benefits him on and off the field. But Gary, let's spend a few minutes actually talking about things that happened on the field. Let's dive into a few games from last week. I know they kind of back burner stuff, feels like, almost in a way, considering what's gone on the last couple of days. But let's start with the Homewood Patriots. Homewood picks up a 31-21 win over Pelham, knocks Pelham out of the playoffs, locks Homewood into the playoffs. This is a 10-point game, and it wasn't that close. Homewood dominated this game. Pelham scored 2 late touchdowns to make the score respectable. Homewood did this without the starting quarterback. Will Myers was out sick. Caleb Carson steps in, plays really, really well. They didn't ask him to throw it a ton, but did enough, and he did a lot with his legs as well, commanding the offense. Homewood's won 5 straight since starting out 0-3. It's been a really cool run to see the Patriots lock into the playoffs for the 10th year in a row with head coach Ben Bergeson, who we're going to talk with now. Joining us today, Homewood head coach Ben Bergeson. Coach Bergeson and the Patriots started off 0-3, and they haven't lost since. So, Coach, you got to tell us, what happened, what's changed, how'd you flip the script so quickly?
Well, first of all, we had to figure out who we were, and we had to get some guys in the right spot. And by the way, those first 3 losses were to 3 pretty good football teams. I don't know what their combined record is right now, but they were all 3 undefeated for several weeks. So they were good football teams.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, tell me a little bit about finding yourself. We talked all summer about you lost so much from last year's, big time playoff run team, and you knew it was going to take some time. So what did you find after the summer and the first few weeks?
Well, we're so young. We only have 14 seniors, and I'm already excited about next year having 40 juniors. But we just had to figure out what we could do and couldn't do, and we've been able to run the ball really well. Offensive line's playing really well, and our two running backs, Evan Osmer and AJ Career, have just really come on strong lately.
You're gonna need that offensive line this week
Yes,
for
no
sure.
doubt.
I haven't seen you guys play this year, but I have seen Briarwood. So kind of tell me about what you've seen out of Briarwood and what y'all are gonna have to do well this week.
Their front four is really good. It's as good as I've seen this year. We haven't seen a front like that since the Vestavia game, and I really like their middle linebacker also. So sure, we'll test the waters and see how we do this week running the football, and we've got so many weapons now too. Not only the two running backs, King Walker, receiver, he missed the first 6 weeks of the season with a broken humerus. He's back. He has an unbelievable presence on the field at 6'3", and he's a big target. And Kylan Newell, another receiver, has been really playing well too. That transferred in from Hewitt this summer. So we've got some weapons, and we'll just have to find what we can do, Friday night against Briarwood. And our defense has really been playing well. Coach Lawrence does such a good job with those guys, and you can't miss Talton Thomas out there running around.
That's right. Coach, tell us a little bit about your two quarterbacks. Will Myers steps in, and after the first few weeks, he's really been playing well. Misses last week, and Caleb Carson steps in, and it doesn't seem like you guys missed a beat.
No, it's a good problem to have when you've got two that can play like that. Will was sick for several days last week and didn't get many of the reps during practice. So, we decided to go with Caleb, and he played a good game Friday night, made great decisions, just really ran the team well, and he's a pretty good runner also.
Wow. No doubt.
Has it been cool? Like, obviously, again, I haven't got to see you guys yet. Maybe come November, but has it been cool having as a coach, having such a young team and just watching them build week after week and watching that confidence level rise? What's that been like for you?
It's really been cool, and one of the coolest seasons I've ever coached. It's really been remarkable to start off 0-3 and then win 5 in a row. And I told the guys on the bus on the way back from Benjamin Russell the night after we went down there, what's your legacy going to be, and how cool would it be to finish up 7-3 after an 0-3 start?
Absolutely. All right, Coach. Well, this is the kind of thing that I can't believe Gary hadn't already told me about, because this is right up his alley. But you are now 10 years leading a Homewood football team to the playoffs, the most in program history. And Homewood's got quite the legacy of some stout coaches. So what's that mean to you to be atop that list?
I didn't know it till Glenn Brasher told me last week on our little TV show we do, and I was shocked to even my name to be brought up in the same sentence with Gerald Gann and Bob Newton. I mean, it really cool. I mean, and I just tell everybody, if you're anywhere long enough, some of those things are gonna happen. But I give all the credit to any assistant coach that ever played for me and any player. I mean, we've had an awesome run here.
It's awesome.
Now,
awesome.
What do you think is going to be the key? You figured some things out, but 5-game win streak, big one this week, and then you'll get that non-region week before the playoffs get going. So what are you guys kind of really focusing on right now?
Well, I've really told our guys all week is, we've won 5 in a row. It would really be disheartening to end up 4th in this region, there's a possibility there. So, hey, we've got to keep our momentum going and get a win this Friday night, and we really respect Briarwood and their program. There's a lot of history between the two schools, and I'm sure will go down to the last drive this Friday night, like, it has in the past. So it ought to be a really, really fun football game.
Yeah, Coach, speaking of that, like we talk a lot about both Region 3s, Class 6A Region 3 and obviously Class 7A Region 3. And we know Class 7A Region 3 gets a lot more headlines, but it seems like last year and even now this year, there have just been a lot of just nail biter, close type games in your region. Does this region gray your hair pretty quick or
Yeah,
what?
it does. Really strong. It's been up for grabs right here till the end. And I've told our kids the last two, and I'll tell them this week, hey, Pelham was facing elimination last week. We were going to get their best game. Chilton County the week before was facing elimination. We're going to get their best game. And, now, it comes down to us in Briarwood, who might possibly host a home game. We're definitely going to get their best game. So very competitive league. There's not much of a drop off in it, so just a really good league.
How hard of a place is that to play at Briarwood?
It's hard. They probably have the craziest student section and loudest student section, I've ever seen. And hopefully we can match that and just the energy our band brings too. But it's hard to play at Briarwood.
Yeah, that Homewood band will fill up the whole
Yeah.
opposite side. We know that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right, so I know you guys have figured it all out. So what's the scenario this week? How does it all play out, win or lose?
Well, for sure. I mean, in a perfect world, we want Helena to win and us to win, so we'll finish up 1-2.
Yep.
That's the only way we really need it to happen, So, and I'll tell you, it's going to be a tough trip for Helena down because Benjamin Russell's really kind of figured things out, and they figured out whose hands to get the ball in now. And ever since we played them, they've been on a run too.
Yeah, so I know Coach Busby has definitely called you because y'all are the one team that has made Benjamin Russell look like not a great team.
Yeah. Hey, and the ball bounced our way that night,
Yeah, for bounced sure. It a lot. A 3-touchdown win on the road at Benjamin Russell. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Nothing to sneeze at there. All right, Coach. Well, hey, I'm excited to be out there this week. That's going to be a lot of fun on Friday night.
It's going to be a big one.
Playoff seeding on the line. Homewood at Briarwood on Friday night. Coach Ferguson, we appreciate you joining us. We will be catching up with you soon after. Hey, when we get in the playoffs this year, if you guys get in a 57-56 type of game, just make sure you win it this time.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Appreciate Coach Ferguson coming on. Gary, let's get to the game you were at. Spain Park pulls the upset of the week. They take down Hewitt-Trussville 50-29. Hewitt-Trussville could not sustain the momentum coming off their best win of the year against Vestavia the week prior. And, man, it seems like the Jags really put it on them.
Yeah, at this point, it feels like this game was like a month ago, but it was just last week. But, yeah, I mean, Hewitt-Trussville, they didn't obviously play their best game. Spain Park had a lot to do with that. And, Josh Floyd, the Hewitt-Trussville head coach, after the game, that's what he kind of told me. He said, I was worried about this game all week. Those guys over there, they're healthy. And, when they are, they're explosive. They've got a lot of dudes. And those dudes all showed up. And, it's not like Hewitt-Trussville. I don't think they, we had talked the previous week about you can't sleepwalk into this game, that kind of deal. I don't think they did. I think they just got they just got it handed to them. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the other team and take that L and move on. And, I think that's what happened. Hewitt-Trussville struggled a lot in the secondary. The Brock Bradley, the Spain Park quarterback, threw for more than 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jonathan Bibbs had a big night. They couldn't cover him. He did everything. He had 200 receiving yards, a touchdown. Reggie Jackson was big in the passing game. Mostly in the first half, he went down with an injury early third quarter and didn't return. But they ran the ball fairly well, and they just controlled it and scored really at will. It was literally like it was the Spain Park. I mean, this was more than I expected, but it was the Spain Park that at full strength put everything together, and we saw this is exactly what this team can be. When they are healthy and they've got a little bit, they're gelling, and they've had some consistent weeks in a row playing with each other, boom. And they showed it. And I will say this, I'm pretty proud of this. I made Coach Tim Vakakis cry. So I'm feeling
What'd
pretty
you do? Did you
tough
hit him in the
about that.
face or something?
No, I just asked him a question about how proud he was of his guys. That's the only way I could make him cry. He's a Greek guy. They got big feelings, you know. So he you could see it post game after he did, you know, school TV. You could see a little red in his eyes, and so I just asked him. I said, "Your eyes a little red?" And he kind of gave me that look like you just pushed me right over that edge, you know. And but it was very emotional for him. You know, I think he saw what all the Spain Park faithful saw Friday was, you know, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, not quitting, you know, still fighting, scratching, clawing for, you know, a crazy playoff scenario at the time. And they didn't just win the game, they straight dominated. And it was really impressive to see. And like you said, regardless of all the transfer stuff we've talked about, and you know, a lot of that centered on Spain Park, I don't think this program's going anywhere but up.
Mountain Brook notches one of their biggest wins. They blow out Mortimer Jordan 54-14. I thought this was going to be a little bit more competitive than it was, but Spartans dominate this game. They claim the second seed in 6A Region 5, which gets you a first-round home playoff game, but at the same time, it matches you up with Clay-Chalkville in the second round, should you win in the first round. So the emotions were, they were like, yay. But anyways, in this game, Mountain Brook scored like 4 touchdowns in the second quarter. Mortimer Jordan, they went for it. It was 28-7, and Jordan went for it deep in their own territory with like a minute to go before the half, and that gave Mountain Brook a short field to score again. It's 35-7. I mean, that game was over at that point.
Yeah.
Cole Gamble, as you expect, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jack King scored a couple more touchdowns. So nice win for the Spartans. They will be the 2 seed regardless of what happens this week. And honestly, the rest of the games, Benjamin Russell beats Briarwood 25-21. Briarwood, they're going to feel like they're going to want this one back. A big comeback from Ben Russell. They took the win there. The Lions had another chance late. I encourage you to go to 280living.com and take a look at the recap of the finish there, because it was a wild one. But Briarwood falls in a tough one. Vestavia Hills beats Oak Mountain 50-0. Hoover beats Chelsea 41-7. John Carroll, 35-12 win over Jasper. The Cavs are in the playoffs for the first time since 2009. And Clay-Chalkville wraps up their region title with a 28-14 win over Oxford. Gary, anything from all of that stick out to you?
Benjamin Russell, Briarwood. Briarwood leading 21-6, and then there's 19 unanswered. And that game went. We were both like this last week. Like, I don't know how it's going to go, but I think it's going to be close. And we got another one of those Class 6A Region 3 games decided by 7 or fewer points. So that's, like you said, that's one they're going to want back. But man, Gabe Benton and Malcolm Simmons just kind of took that thing over in the second half. And so Briarwood, they've got to lick those wounds and get right back on the mat here against Homewood this week.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's talk about some of these Week 10 games. This is the last region week, and I'll be honest, there's not a ton of intrigue as far as I'm concerned. In terms of seeding, there's a little bit. We'll go ahead and let you know, 7A Region 3, barring any upsets, it'll be Thompson 1, Hewitt-Trussville 2, Vestavia Hills 3, Hoover 4. Just like we thought, even with – I've gotten a lot of questions about the Spain Park upset maybe upsetting the apple cart a little bit. And unfortunately, it just doesn't unless something else crazy happens this week. But let's start. So I will be at this Homewood at Briarwood game on Friday. Like we talked to Coach Bergeson about, there is kind of some wild playoff seeding because Helena's unbeaten. Benjamin Russell has one loss in the region. They play each other. And then Homewood has one loss. They play Briarwood, which has two losses. So depending on the results, it's crazy. There's still a lot to be sorted out 1 through 4. But in terms of this matchup between Homewood and Briarwood, like you mentioned, Briarwood's going to have to rebound from this tough loss. Homewood trying to keep up their great run. Ferguson, y'all talked about it. That Briarwood defensive line is going to be we're going to see how Homewood's offensive line and they hold up to it. We'll see if they get Will Myers back at quarterback. But on the other side of the ball, like Homewood's got a star linebacker in Talton Thomas that is all over the field all the time. So Briarwood is going to have to be aware of where he is because that dude can score touchdowns and flip games on his own. So I'm interested to see how this one goes. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it feels like one of those. I mean, not too unlike the Benjamin Russell game. Like maybe a little more smash mouth football on both sides from both teams, and both of them with somewhat opportunistic passing games. So it feels another one of those that's like first 1 to 24 type
Maybe.
game.
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe.
17?
I could see that.
You can see that. So, something like that, but just it feels like these are two likely evenly matched teams. They're both playing for a whole lot. You really want to win, and I'm sure there will be a lot of phones checking that Helena Benjamin Russell game from the stands at Lions Pride. So I'm interested to hear what you see from that game Friday, because I think it's certainly the best game of the night and the most meaningful game of the night.
Yeah, for sure. Gary, I really want to touch on one more game. John Carroll is hosting Winona. You'll be there at this one. This game will decide the 3 seed, I think. It's still kind of convoluted sometimes, but I think the winner of this game gets the 3 seed, and they cross with like Fairview and Russellville.
They play this week.
Yeah, they play this week. They're both undefeated in the region. So, what do you think from this one? I mean, if you just compare results, this has the makings of quite an even matchup.
Yeah, I think it could be. And like you said, so Ramsey's going to be region champ, 6-0 in region 5. Pleasant Grove's the 2 seed, 5-1. Cavs, they're 4-2, and then you've got Fairfield and Winona at 3-3. And Fairfield did just beat Winona this last week, and they're both 3-3. So for Winona, they really need to get this win at John Carroll. So they're going to bring everything they've got. And then Fairfield is at Hayden, which Hayden's like 1-5, but again, you're still traveling on the road. So Winona, they need this game. They want this game, and they need this game. So I think we're in for a competitive one. It was intensely competitive last year, and it was 13-12. I think we're going to see a few more points than 13-12 this go around. And I'm more than anything, you know me, that I'm a culture and a context guy, and I'm just excited to go out there for the second time this year and just kind of take in the atmosphere after these folks know they're going to the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, and just kind of, revel in that with them and see a bunch of happy people and, no off the field drama and stuff, and just have us a night. So I'm excited to get out there and see how this one unfolds. I think it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, pretty cool to see that atmosphere as well. All right, so the rest of the games this week, here, all the 7A Region 3 games. Thompson's heading to Hoover. It's kind of sad. That game has had so much intrigue over the last 6 years. Not as much this time around. Hewitt-Trussville takes on Chelsea. Spain Park heads to Oak Mountain. Vestavia Hills heads to Tuscaloosa County. You figure if Thompson, Hewitt, and Vestavia all win, we've still got the same 1 through 4 that we thought. Mountain Brook heading to Gardendale, and Clay-Chalkville is hosting Shades Valley. But yeah, that's what we've got for week 10. After this week, we will know most of the playoff brackets. There will be some that final non-region week will help determine some tiebreakers, but we'll know most of the playoff bracket after this week. But Gary, let's have a big one on Friday night. Hopefully, we can get back to some focus on the results on the field. I would enjoy that greatly.
I'm sure. Me too.
Yeah.
I can not. I'll watch Suits and not be distracted this time.
Well, hopefully we'll have some World Series games coming up, as the Astros will not be winning the World Series this year, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. I know we're recording this day of Game 7
Right.
for the D-backs and Phillies,
Yeah.
and the outcome of that game will determine how much of this World Series I will watch. I don't know that I can stomach watching Philadelphia, so I'm a big Diamondbacks fan tonight, and I'm pulling for the Rangers to win the whole thing.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Under the Lights, episode 28 in the books. High school football coming up this Friday night. We'll be on the scene covering it all. Check us out on Twitter. I'm at Kyle Parmley. Gary is at Gary A. Lloyd. We appreciate you listening. Let us know what you think. If you think we're both blithering idiots, that's fine too. But thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.